It's Saturday night.
The kids are in bed.
Which means we did it. We survived another week.
So let's talk about it.
From our latest homebrew project
to kids' crafting projects.
It's just talking life with 2 young kids and 2 dogs. Grab your favorite beverage, sit back,
relax,
and see where the conversation takes us.
Sometimes we don't even know until we get there. This is the Craft Parenting Podcast.
Lately, ever since I went back to work from paternity leave, I feel like each week has gotten longer and longer. This past week in general just seemed to drag, and I don't know why that is, because we did spring forward an hour, so I don't know where that logic comes in. You would think it would fly by.
I mean, we did lose sleep, so that didn't help, but I don't even know how I'm going to go back to work at this point. I never know what day of the week it is, what time it is. I just kind of go based off of which child is closest to me and what it is that they want at that time. And that kind of tells me where I am in my day.
That's right. You are living in the land without time right now.
I do know that it's Saturday because we're recording a podcast right now. And you weren't in the basement for at least 8 hours. So I did get to see you. We're here recording another great episode.
Yeah, that's right. We made it to Saturday. Somehow. I don't know how we did that. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of the Craft Parenting Podcast. I'm Joe Ludwig, and that other voice that you hear is my lovely co-host and wife, Caroline. How's it going, Caroline?
I'm here. I'm tired, but I got caffeine today. That's kind of like the running theme, it seems, with these, is I'm tired, but I got caffeine, so I'm okay. I have a beer, like the first time I've had a beer in like 3 days. That's nice too. Normally the kids go to bed and then I'm like, crash. But I actually get to have a beer tonight, which is nice.
Yes, and we'll get into all that later. This is episode number 4 of the Craft Parenting Podcast. Can you believe that? It means we've been doing this podcasting thing for a month now.
Well, if Elliot was 2 weeks old when we recorded the first episode, and he's 6 weeks old now, and we're on a train traveling 60 miles per hour, and you give me 10 apples, the pancakes on the roof are purple. So yes, that does make sense.
All right, science.
Science.
That's what everyone says, right? Science.
My favorite quote from Adam Savage of Mythbusters is, "The only difference between screwing around and science is writing things down." And I mean, he's not wrong.
No, I guess not. And we have a lot written down in this lovely Google Doc, so that means I guess we are doing science.
We did write down a lot. There is some science behind this. Is it exact science? Meh. Do we care? No. Are we having fun? Yes.
We have a great show planned out for you this week. We are going to talk about all of our adventures from this past week. And then we are going to highlight our favorite local coffee shops that we'd like to visit.
And based on previous episodes of this podcast, you know how heavily we rely on caffeine.
So let's dive in.
So, what did we do this week, Joe? I can barely remember.
Well, Lily got a rocking chair. Not a new one. I think it was your rocking chair, wasn't it?
I don't know if I actually used the rocking chair. I will have to ask my mother for clarification, but it did come from my mom's house.
Came from your old room, right?
It did, but it wasn't in my room when I left my room to move in here. I had a different rocking chair in my room, or there was no rocking chair in my room. My room went through a lot of phases. And I don't remember what exactly it looked like when I abandoned it.
But Lily really likes to sit in it. She just likes to sit and read in general, but she does like to sit in that rocking chair as well.
And rock in the rocking chair, and stand on the rocking chair, and stand and rock in the rocking chair.
She stands on everything.
She really does. She's already tall, and she doesn't need to be taller because she's already in like the 95th percentile. So, like, chill, child. You don't need to reach everything. Her head almost hits our counter for our breakfast bar. And I don't know what she's going to do when that happens. Because even when she started walking, her head hit the dining room table. And she still bumps her head into the dining room table on a regular basis.
She is smart, though. I mean, we're acting like she's not very bright, but she is smart. She's stubborn, and she does what she wants.
She needs to work on body awareness. She is a smart child, but as Hillary had to work with Teller on rear end awareness, we have to work with Lily on just general body awareness. Eventually, I will get that kid into a gymnastics class, which will be both amazing and terrifying, but girl needs to burn off energy and learn where her body parts are in relation to other objects.
Like you said, she's really tall, and she grew a lot in a short amount of time.
Like a Labrador. They just have to figure out where they are. It's fine.
I'm sure when Lily listens to this, when she's like a teenager, she's going to love that we compared her to a dog.
I mean, the dogs were our practice children, so not entirely wrong.
So this past week was St. Patrick's Day. I made the stout brownies that we talked about last week.
Yeah, I was out of the house. I don't remember what I was out of the house doing.
I think you were picking up
Lily.
Lily.
Was picking up Lily. That is what I was doing. I had to pick up Lily from the parents' house, and Joe made brownies. It was great.
I made brownies, and I made these Irish bratwursts.
Some kind of Irish sausage.
But it's like a brat.
At least it's not haggis. That's the important thing. But haggis is Scottish.
Yes, the haggis is Scottish. And what did the Scotland people say a haggis was when we were there?
It's a three-legged creature that runs in circles on the Scottish countryside. She was very annoyed with being asked that question, I can only assume. But, I mean, Scotland was fun because we were there in July. The sun, never fully set, so we had no idea what time it was. We'd look at our watches and be like, well, really our phones, because who wears watches these days? And be like, oh, it is 10:30 at night, but it's still light outside, and this bar is still half full. Don't you people have jobs?
Middle of the week.
Yeah. And then we go to London, and nothing's open past 9:30, and we're like, where are we supposed to get a beer around here? The answer, nowhere.
We found a couple places.
Yeah, that all closed at 9:30. That's why we went to the American place for dinner after the play got done, because we needed food, and the American diner was the only place that was open.
That's right.
And then we had to answer all of these questions about life in America, because all the I'm going to say foreigners, but I think there were 2 Brits and then a guy who legitimately was not from Great Britain in the restaurant, why are you eating here if you're American? And I'm like, because it's the only place that's open. And Joe elbows me semi-violently in the side and says, you can't say that. I'm like, well, it's true. So then we have to explain American cuisine and how weird it is. And yes, you're going to get a chili dog, but it's not the same chili dog you would get from us, because in Cincinnati, that means something totally different than it means in the rest of the country.
I don't even think we got into 3-ways.
We did not, or proper shark petting technique, or all of the weird things that just happen in Cincinnati, that if you're not from Cincinnati, you're like, what is wrong with these people? Why is everything about sex? And it's not. It's about food or animals. It's the way it is.
Well, last Monday you had an adventure to the doctor's office again.
It was less of an adventure because I only had one child with me. So Elliot had his 1-month checkup. He is 12 pounds. He's a big baby. I pulled up Lily's stats from the same time, and so she was a 1/4 inch taller than him, but a whole pound lighter. So babies get fat and then long, and then fat and then long. And so we'll see how long he is at his 2-month checkup compared to Lily. Maybe he'll be taller than, I don't know. He is a little chunky monkey, but he's supposed to be because he's a newborn. And that's the way babies are supposed to be. We have turned Tuesday into a regular zoo day, rain or shine. This week was shine, so that was nice. We actually got to spend about 3 hours at the zoo. How is it having the house to yourself, other than the crazy dogs?
Well, the crazy dogs go in and out, in and out, in and out.
Oh yeah, the weather's nice. Zoe doesn't want to stay inside.
Yes.
But she can't stay outside for too long because part husky. And then Clara's just like, I want to be where the people are. Crap. Joe is the only one here. How can I find the rest of the family when they're not here?
Yeah, that's true.
We got to spend 3 hours at the zoo. We did not wait in line for the train. Maybe we will try to do that this next time that we go to the zoo.
Was there a line?
There was a line for the train. There was also a line for the carousel, but the line for the carousel wasn't as bad.
There was a line on a Tuesday?
There were a ton of people at the zoo.
That's crazy.
We had to park. It ended up being a nice spot, but it's part of the parking lot we don't normally park in. So the way the timed tickets work is you can show up late, but you can't show up early. So I just reserved tickets for the 9:30 to 10 a.m. slot, knowing there was like a 2% chance everyone would be out of the house in time to be at the zoo at 10. But we did get to the zoo before 11, and it was just massive amounts of people there. Like COVID considering massive amounts of people. Because we had to wait in a line to get in the elevator to actually go across the bridge to get to the zoo. And then there were just people everywhere. So we did avoid some of the more popular exhibits. We did see Fiona, though. That's never not an option. Last time it wasn't an option, but that was because it was about to start pouring down rain. And I love me some Fiona, but I'm not dealing with 2 small children in a torrential downpour.
I think that would have been the first torrential downpour for Lily.
Yeah. I can't wait till the weather warms up, because then we're going to drive you bonkers when we're running around in the driveway when it's nice and warm outside.
I vaguely recall you doing that when Lily was younger, like 6 months, 7 months.
So we spent a little bit of time outside. We'll be spending more time outside. Lily has pool shoes now. Lily is a lot more active. I'm thinking she's going to be confused, and then she's going to love it. Prepare thyself. So we actually got to eat lunch at the zoo this time, which was nice. And I sent Mom and Lily to the carousel to give Elliot and myself some alone time. And Mom only put Lily on one of the benches because Mom hasn't been on a carousel in a while. Lily had never been on a carousel before. Bench is a nice, safe space. Totally cool with that.
And what was her reaction?
She was ecstatic. Partially broke her little mind. So then once we all reunited, I was like, well, if the line's not super long, which it was a little long at that point, it's like, we're going to risk it for the biscuit. I would like to ride the carousel with Lily. But I'm going to do the dangerous thing of putting the 18-month child on one of the animals that goes up and down.
You were holding her the entire time.
She was in jeans that actually had little belt loops, and I had my fingers laced into those belt loops, holding on to her tight so she couldn't go anywhere, and she had a blast.
You sent a snap, but the snap didn't have sound.
Unfortunately, I muted the snap, but I had saved it before I muted it, so I do still have the original snap with sound. If I remember, when we post this episode, I will also post that video. Because we had to wait forever for them to actually get the carousel going, because they had let too many children into the carousel and there weren't enough animals. So people were trying to find places to sit, but they couldn't because the whole middle row of animals is closed off due to social distancing. Then 2 kids tried to sit on one animal because they were brothers, and they're like, no, you can't do that. But then their cousin or their sister or something became terrified and didn't want to ride the carousel anymore, so one of the boys went on that one. It was just a semi-hot mess. And Lily was like, why aren't we doing anything? Why am I sitting up here? I'm going to lick this now because I'm bored. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am so glad that they wiped this down. And she hasn't come down with a cold or anything yet, because I didn't tell you about that.
Do they wipe it down after each?
They do, which is another reason why it took so long. But we finally got moving. She knew when the bell rang that meant carousel was going to go. So she was like, okay, I got this. And then she started to go up and down. And she was like, wait, I am moving in 2 directions. What is this insanity? And she had a lot of fun. Eventually, we will work on the Find Grandma and Wave to Grandma. We haven't quite gotten there yet, but she had a lot of fun.
I can't wait to go with her and experience that myself.
We'll have to risk it and go some Saturday. It'll be insanity. But we can do it.
When does the zoo close? Is that like 4? Like that last entry is at like 4 probably?
Yeah. You don't need a reservation from 2 to 4 p.m. if you're a member. And the zoo closes at 5. So if you get off work early, we can potentially all go as a family. That is also Lily's nap time, though.
That's true. So yeah, we would have to go like on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Are they open on Sunday?
The zoo is open 363-ish days a year. They're only closed on like Christmas and Thanksgiving or something like that.
Well, then Sunday is also an option, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, the animals don't take holidays, so no matter what, at least the animal staff has to be there. So they make more money if they can let people in the zoo than if they can't let people in the zoo. So there are very few days that they're closed.
You got to see more animals this time.
We did. So the only repeat animals we saw were the giraffes and the elephants. I guess we did get to see the gorillas again, too. We totally avoided Rue Valley because it was more busy, and that's the new section. I figured that section would be a little bit more crazy. Let's go see some things we didn't see last time. And it worked out. Lily had a lot of fun. She's only really interested in animals if they move.
Did the giraffes run around again?
A little bit, but they were also being fed because we were there during the pay $4 and feed the giraffe some romaine lettuce time. One day we'll do that with her. Maybe later this summer. I don't know.
We kind of already do that with the dogs. When we leave, we have the baby gate closed and she gives them a dental stick.
You have to train her how to be good to animals early.
The dogs love the tiny humans because they give them food.
They tolerate the tiny humans because they give them food. Well, the treats are payment for the prodding and pulling that Lily does, which we try to shut down as soon as possible.
Yeah, she doesn't do it that much, but she does do it. And we have to stop it early, like you said.
One thing that I don't really like are people that kind of let their kids do whatever they want to with their dogs. And they're like, oh, my dog is fine. My dog's super well-mannered. It won't do anything. One, your dog might be like that. Or they might just be, like, they might just know that they aren't allowed to react to the child. And so one day they're just going to snap at your child because they're going to lose it and be like, I can't take this anymore. But then 2, other people's dogs won't necessarily react the same way your dogs will. So train your kid to be nice to every single dog, and you don't have to worry about your kid going up and poking some strange dog in the eye and then almost getting their hand bit off. That's my mini rant. So Tuesday was adventure day for Lily and Elliot. Wednesday was adventure day for just Elliot. Elliot and myself dropped off Lily because it was Oma day. Went and got the van checked out by our body shop that we like to make sure that everything was okay. I don't necessarily have to get anything fixed because everything's cosmetic. But I drop off the van, so I can get an oil change. And then I walk to the coffee shop that's down the street from their shop because even though there is surprisingly no one in line ahead of me, which is the first time that has ever happened to me when I go to the shop.
Yeah, their shop is usually crazy busy.
Yeah, I was expecting like 4 cars ahead of me, and I was going to have to spend an hour at the coffee shop just killing time, and then go to Kroger, and then try to figure out how many groceries I could put in the stroller with Elliot. Spoilers, it would not be many. To then walk the groceries to the shop and hope that the car is done by the time I get back. But fortunately, I just have to spend like 10 minutes at the coffee shop. So we go and we get some coffee. I get a mini lunch. They call me on my way back to the shop to be like, hey, your car's ready. And I'm like, I am walking to the shop right now. Just chill, guys. They all know me at this point because I've been there a bunch. So I give them shit. They give me shit. It's just the way that it is. But fortunately, the van's okay. Elliot lets me pick up Girl Scout cookies from my friend because I had to get my last order in before cookie sales are done. And then we get to go to do some grocery shopping as well. So Elliot let me do things. Again, like last week, we got home and he was a hangry mess. But I got all my chores done.
That's super exciting.
It is.
And then on Thursday, it was super rainy.
It was so rainy.
You and your mom and Elliot went to, and Lily,
And Lily, yes. It was a family excursion.
you all went to Sam's Club,
We did.
which is like Costco.
I mean, I think Sam's Club is pretty prevalent places. It's warehouse shopping, so big bulk items. Instead of buying a jar of pasta sauce, you buy 3 jars. Instead of buying a tiny container of Parmesan cheese, you buy a 4.5-pound container of Parmesan
5
cheese.
pound. You sent me a picture of Lily holding a 4.5 pound, 5-pound jar of Parmesan. It's as tall as she is. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but only a little.
It's the size of her torso. Girl loves her cheese sprinkles. I love the cheese sprinkles. Just let us live our dreams now. I did not bring home the 4.5-pound container of cheese sprinkles, even though I wanted to. For the most part, I stuck to my list of diapers, some snacks, anything I could get for a beach vacation.
Came home with some random stuff. I was like, what?
Well, okay, you have not really had Alfredo sauce in your life. I miss Alfredo sauce.
Now we have 10 jars of it.
4 jars. Just 4.
All right, I do exaggerate.
There was a while
Slightly.
where you couldn't find Alfredo sauce anywhere. So, like, COVID panic shopping was a thing. And ever since COVID panic shopping, Alfredo sauce has been hard to come by. And we, like, never used Alfredo sauce anyway. But I miss Alfredo sauce. I'd like to introduce Lily to Alfredo sauce so I have someone to enjoy it with. So I bought some Alfredo sauce. But at Sam's, you buy a 3-pack of Alfredo sauce or a 3-pack of pasta sauce. So I got both. I didn't buy the big thing of Dino chicken nuggets. I didn't buy the big thing of pizza rolls. I didn't buy the big jar of Nutella. I controlled myself.
I'm very proud of you. You didn't come home with a big, giant jar of Nutella.
Yeah. We got Lily a really cute outfit with Dalmatians on it. I bought it in a 4T thinking, okay, we'll pull it out in the fall. But as soon as I put it in the cart, she turned around, she picked it up, and she held it for most of the shopping trip and didn't really want to give it up.
There's a little dog on the chest.
It has a little pocket that looks like a doggy head, and it's got little floppy ears. It's so cute.
And it fits her.
It's long on her.
Okay,
but she can wear it.
Not by much, though.
No, girl is almost in 3T. And Elliot is about to move into 3 to 6 month clothes. I'm thinking Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm starting to purge out the 0 to 3 month items and start throwing 3 to 6 month items in the laundry.
And then on Friday, you and Elliot just chilled.
That was kind of nice. I got to play a lot of Animal Crossing on the big screen TV because there was nobody here to tell me I shouldn't. I am an adult and can make my own decisions.
Lily was at my mom's house.
I debated starting to paint the nursery and then just decided I can do that next week.
I won't hold my breath on that.
I wouldn't either.
And then you decided to stop by a local church to get us some fish fry.
I mean, you can't really say you're a Cincinnatian if you don't go to at least one fish fry during Lent. I mean, there have been a few years where we have totally forgotten about fish fries, but we have like 6 Catholic churches within 2 miles of our house. So, but most of them don't do fish fries, which is weird. Probably just because 1 or 2 of them are super good at them. But St. Al's down the street was doing their fish fry. Our friends were thinking they were going to get food from the fish fry. And I was like, well, whichever one of us gets there first, why don't we just hang out for dinner? Maybe we can play some board games. Unfortunately, they had to do like actual adulting work, so we could only hang out for dinner and then Midwestern goodbye for like an hour. We're really good at Midwestern goodbyes. I was like, okay, picking up Lily. This is going to be a quick in and out pickup. We're not going to Midwestern goodbye this one. And I was very proud of us. It was very much an in and out situation. When I drive past the fish fry to pick up Lily, the line is pretty long. And I'm like, oh boy, I gotta hustle because the longer I spend at your parents' house, the farther in line I'm going to be. So it's like a hurry up to wait kind of situation. But when I get there, I actually get to get into the parking lot, and I'm like the 8th or ninth car right away.
So this was a drive-through only situation?
Yeah, it was a drive-through fish fry, which was nice. I'm kind of a big fan of like pick food up other places or have it delivered to our house versus us having to like go out. Because it's a lot easier to just say, everything we need for the children is here. I don't have to worry about who's going to hold the child and how we're going to contain the toddler because I can just find one of 10 places to safely put the child. And the toddler is safely contained in her 5-point harness high chair, where I've debated making it a 3-point harness high chair, and then she decides that she wants to like do something weird, like stretch her body, where if I had made it a 3-point harness, she would fall out. So that's not happening.
Kid is crazy.
And keeping with the theme of this week's episode, because Elliot and myself were very keen to do as much research as possible, we went to College Hill Coffee this morning.
We did.
Yeah. We were going to go we were debating going to Sailor Park Coffee because Hillary hadn't been before. And we're like, well, we'll go. It's down the street. Well, it's down the hill. And then she had to bail because they had more adulting things to do. And she's like, but I can maybe pick you up coffee tomorrow? And like she was talking about like maybe getting a Starbucks. And I was like, hey, Sailor Park Coffee is open tomorrow. We will never say no to coffee. So don't write us off yet. We might go to Sailor Park Coffee tomorrow. Which, I mean, I went to White Oak Coffee on Friday. So we drove out to College Hill Coffee. Actually took the whole family inside to pick up the coffee as opposed to the send one adult in to get coffee and then leave. Lily was well behaved, though she did want to like play with all of the wind chimes.
She did, yes. And then we got home and we took a nice long walk. Well, we ate lunch and then we took a walk because Lily was just super crazy into everything and wired to the bone. But I don't know what was in the water today.
She was not ready to go to bed, though. The best advice that I've seen is to give them a bath or take them outside when they're feeling like that. So we took the kids on a walk and attempted to abandon them at your brother's house.
Well, there's a backstory behind that.
Oh, yeah. So Josh's fiance, Becky, texts me and is like, hey, if you guys need a break from the kids, just let us know because we're one street over. We can like come hang out with them for a while and give you guys a break. And I was like, well, you know, we're just going to randomly drop them off on your front porch and run away because we can do that. So we decided on our walk to walk past their house and just abandon the kids on their front porch. Well, their front yard, but close enough.
We were literally 10 feet away from them, though.
We kept the children in sight at all times. There was a lady that was on a walk who looked at us crazy with 2 strollers parked in their front yard and us hiding in their side yard.
Yeah, I'm sure she was very confused. I'm just glad she didn't call the cops.
Yeah. But your brother walked outside and was like, what? Where are they? And then when Becky came outside, she said, her sister said, hey, the doorbell rang. I think it's Joe and Carrie because there are kids in the front yard.
They were just very confused.
If you're from CPS or the police or anything
the
like
wiretap
that,
people.
Yes. Dear wiretap, the children are home safe in their beds. At no time were they ever in any kind of danger. Other than the danger that Lily creates for herself. Girl likes to climb on things.
And jump off them. So that was a long week. We are grateful it's finally the weekend. We are both enjoying an adult beverage. What are you drinking?
So today, I am drinking a Braille Ale by Westside Brewing. It is the first can worldwide, check source, 90% sure that that's true, that actually includes Braille on the can. They had to figure out how to print the label to actually include Braille text, which I can't read. But Braille Ale was made in collaboration with the Cincinnati Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So they wanted to make sure that people that were blind or visually impaired were able to read the can, so they could also know what was in the can. It's pretty cool. It is 4% ABV, 7 IBUs, raspberry goza. So it's a little sour, but it's not like super sour. If you're not into super sour things, which Joe is super not into super sour things.
But I've tried this, and it's not sour.
It's not like Urban Artifact sour. But it is a lightly sour ale with coriander, salt, and raspberry. It is yummy. What are you drinking?
I am still celebrating St. Patrick. I am drinking Guinness in a can, so it has that little nitro. I think they call it a widget.
They do, because I was like, what? When they're like, it's in kegs or bottles or widgets. And I'm like, oh, it's the can with the little thing inside. Got it.
Yeah, so the widget releases the nitro, I guess. I don't know exactly how it works.
Science.
The Guinness is 4.2 ABV, 45 IBUs. Is an Irish dry stout. Everyone knows what Guinness is, though. It's delicious. And we got it just in time for St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. Elliot and myself picked it up on St. Patrick's Day. It was a debate between a 4-pack or an 8-pack. I, of course, picked up the 8-pack. The weird older gentleman who had gotten Guinness before me and was still in the beer aisle for some reason was like, that's the economic way to buy it. I was like, okay, thank you for your opinion that I did not ask for. I'm going to get through this grocery store as fast as I can before this little kid melts down because he's hungry.
Guinness originated in the brewery of Arthur Guinness at St. James's Gate in Dublin, Ireland in 1759. It is one of the most successful alcohol brands worldwide, brewed in almost 50 countries, available in over 120. Yeah, everyone loves Guinness. They have different styles, but I'm drinking the original. And this was interesting. I learned this in my marketing class in college. There's a lot of marketing about this. It's specific instructions on how to pour a Guinness, mostly for like if you're in a restaurant. And they say it takes 119.5 seconds to do it. Basically, you're supposed to pour it in 2 sessions. So you pour it, I think, 2/3 of the way.
With your typical beer pour tilt. If you are not tilting your cup when you're pouring a beer from a tap, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. And you're supposed to let it settle. And it's going to be cloudy, and then it settles, and it turns completely black. And then you fill it up the rest of the way. And then you're supposed to let it settle, and then deliver it to the client if you're at a bar.
Sometimes they'll put a little shamrock in the head for the final pour.
Oh, yeah. Molly's did that.
Was that Molly's? Was that when we were in Epcot? I don't remember. Somewhere they did that, and it was really... we might have gotten a Guinness when we were in Epcot. We have not drank around the world. I would like to drink around the world someday, but at this point, I'm probably too old to drink around the world, because I just would not be able to do anything the next day.
We would fall asleep.
We would fall asleep about halfway through. They've added a lot more drink options. It makes it a lot harder to drink around the world and not get kicked out and or fall asleep. But did you know the Guinness Book of World Records was started by the managing director of Guinness in the 1950s?
I did not know that.
I learned this from a podcast that I listen to that does like different random topics every week. And one week they did the Guinness Book of World Records. And I never made the correlation between the Guinness Book of World Records, the thing that was every middle schooler's every middle school boy's dream book to get at the Scholastic Book Fair, with Guinness, the beer company. So it started because this dude was out hunting with his friends, and they were arguing over what the fastest game bird Britain was. And he said it was one thing, and they were saying it was another thing. Well, he was right. But he was like, there should be a book in every pub that has all of these facts of the fastest this, the best that, whatever. Everything's accurate. So you could open it up and win arguments with your friends. This was pre-internet, so it kind of made sense, but it also did not make sense.
I was going to say, in the modern era, this is called a cell phone.
Yeah. So basically he started it so he could win arguments with his friends, and then convinced all of these bar owners to buy it, and eventually became this big, massive thing. And now they're the world source for all, major records. But, you could also just, pay them money and get a record, so there's that.
This is riveting stuff.
So riveting.
Well, cheers to the weekend, and Lord help us in the week ahead, because starting tomorrow, we are going to have to do it all over again. More crazy adventures are ahead, and we will make sure to share them with you each week right here on the Craft Parenting Podcast.
So, I propose adding a new segment to the show called something along the lines of kids shows lack logic, or what in children's TV is frustrating us this week, because I could do a whole series on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and if people want a Drunk Caroline Mickey Mouse Clubhouse rant series, I can do it. We're on our third watch through of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and it is not getting any better. I'm sorry, but when Donald bends his golf club into an L shape and Mickey fixes it with a mouse tool that is a hammer, I'm down for that. But when he's banging on the golf club off screen and holds up the golf club and it's in a figure eight, no, that's not how this works. And then it goes off screen again. He bangs on it with his hammer some more, and now it's an S. Okay, that's better, but that's still not exactly how this works. But Mickey Mouse, what drugs are you on to make that happen? So what's frustrating you in children's TV this week?
I'm not as passionate about my frustrated thing as you are, obviously.
They're breaking physics. Half of my degree is in physics.
But we were watching Tangled.
For the 20th time.
Yeah, and we were watching through it, and it was, like you said, it was our 20th watch through in the past month or whatever. I was just wondering, why didn't Mother Gothel just change Rapunzel's name and lie about her birthday?
I mean,
half the plot would be...
Yeah, there wouldn't be a movie anymore. But, seriously, let the girl, go outside a little bit. Not, necessarily have to interact with other people. But, hey, as long as you don't leave, this little valley type thing that we got going on, where you can actually, touch grass and dirt and a creek and stuff like that. But, I mean, Mother Gothel is just not a good role model.
No.
It's very much an abusive relationship. But, I mean, it's not the worst relationship depiction. There are some way worse ones in movies.
It's through Rapunzel's eyes, though. It's from her point of view, so they make it seem less abusive than it is.
Rapunzel turns out extremely normal for the conditions in which she grew up.
But I was just wondering, she escapes, she goes to the town.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been oh yeah, your birthday's a month from now, it would be oh, these lanterns happen every day on my birthday. That just makes it easier to connect the fact that you kidnapped me when I was a young child and stole me from my family.
Plus, her birthday's a national holiday.
Yeah. Now, granted, Rapunzel has no idea what the nation is.
No. But everyone in the kingdom does.
Yeah.
And everyone in the kingdom, I would assume, know her name.
I don't know. They never mention her name. They never mention her parents' names either. I don't know. Just the king and queen and princess. Maybe Mother Gothel named her Rapunzel. I don't know. But, I mean, it is based on an old fairy tale.
This is true.
More things that are frustrating me. And, well, Fantasia isn't really children's things, though. Fantasia it's more grown up.
I turned it on because classical music is supposed to develop newborn brain or something.
I mean, it's nice background music, at the very least.
Yeah, so I turned it on as background music, and Caroline said they're watching it, actually.
Your brain does that record scratch halt when you hear a guy talk about Greek gods and how this whole next section is about Greek gods and Bacchus throwing a party. And I'm excuse me, Dionysus is the Greek god of wine. Bacchus is Roman. And then he's Apollo rides his chariot across the sky. Okay, I'm down for that. Apollo is Greek. Diana shoots her arrow. Diana? Do you mean Artemis Apollo's sister? Like, okay, you got one of them right, but you didn't get the other one right. They're twins. How do you get one of them Greek and one of them Roman? And then they're like, Zeus. And I'm like, okay, Zeus, he's Greek. We're good with that. And then they say Vulcan. And I'm like, Vulcan is Roman. Hephaestus is Greek. What reference were they using where they got half the names wrong? I'm Greek. I don't worship those gods. I try to make a point of learning more about my Greek heritage.
They're interesting stories.
They are interesting stories, and they are the ones who got democracy to work and is what the American democracy is based off of, with some tweaks. So a lot of things we have to thank the Greeks for. Roman stuff is basically Greek 2.0. Take a Greek god and slap a new name on them. Maybe change up some of the minor things that they're responsible for, but everything else is the same. So, Ares, the god of war in Greek, becomes Mars. They're a little bit different personality-wise, but overall they're the same thing.
And you know all this because you read a certain novel series.
I mean, I do read the Percy Jackson books. There was some Greek, it was a collection of Greek stories that we had to read one summer for English class. I had to cram at the last minute to fill up all of my note cards for that. Because it was 2 days before school was going to start and I hadn't done anything. Yeah, that's what time it is. Oh, I need some coffee. We go to a lot of coffee shops. A lot of the times at Starbucks, just because...
Convenience.
Yeah.
Don't hate on it.
It's really just convenient. Because I can order ahead and pick it up and leave. And 9 times out of 10, I don't even have to talk to anybody. And honestly, I don't want to talk to them in the morning. They're too cheery. If I'm at Girl Scout camp, I can be super cheery in the morning. But otherwise, I'm just give me my caffeine and let me leave. Let's do this transaction and get it over with so I can go wherever it is that I need to go. We have been to all of these post-pandemic. We went to all of these before the pandemic, and we really can't wait until we can go back to them in our post-pandemic. As much as the kids will let us, sit and sip and take our time at these places, because in addition to the drinks being really good, half of it is the ambiance and the environments that these different places have created. It's the layout, the art, the little seating areas that they've got, the staff that's not super over the top friendly, but is friendly. I miss hanging out in coffee shops.
The smells.
Oh my goodness, the coffee smell. I'm not really one for straight coffee. I will drink straight coffee, but the smell of straight coffee is fantastic.
Before we begin, do you want to go into your first? Do you remember the first time you had coffee? Why you got it?
One of the earliest memories that I have of coffee, this was super long time ago. I grew up in a split ranch, semi-similar to the house that we're in now. But before we moved, after I turned 5, I remember being in our old house with one of my little plastic cups. It was blue, probably had princesses on it or something. And mom gave me half coffee, half water. And it was gross. But I drank it to be cool. Or maybe I didn't finish it. I don't know. But I just vividly remember having one of those little plastic cups and drinking half coffee, half water out of it.
Your mom gave you coffee?
She did. But so mom would make coffee every morning. I'd at least be around the smell. I would enjoy the smell of coffee, not so much the taste. Had a bitter aftertaste to it. So I wasn't super into that. I'm more into that now. But then in college, there was a Starbucks in the middle of campus. A homegirl did not always get enough sleep. I would get a Frappuccino. I swear that's when they used to put espresso in them. And at some point they switched it to coffee. And Frappuccinos then did nothing for me. And I was like, what the what? Why did you do this? You can't just do this to people. But then I started drinking mochas. I eventually graduated to what someone in line behind me called a hummingbird, which was a venti with 4 shots of espresso in it. So good. I've ramped down on the caffeine a bit since then.
Quite a bit.
Typically, I'll get a drink with at least 1 or 2 shots of espresso in it. I'm more into like lattes. We'll drink straight black coffee if it's available and it's like the only thing around. So about you?
My parents didn't drink coffee. They still don't really. They don't like it. My dad was a Mountain Dew guy.
Well, yeah, you guys have a mini coffee pot at your house that only gets pulled out for big events when other people are there who want coffee after them. And then your parents are like, someone else make coffee. We don't know how to do this.
And when we had people over, we didn't have coffee. My Oma and Opa and my uncle and my aunt, they all drink coffee. And then when we go to birthday parties now, or when we used to during the before times, but they do like the Keurig single cup coffee and they all drink it, after cake and ice cream. So they're really into coffee. My mom and dad, not so much. But I first tried coffee when I went to Germany with this German organization that I belonged to. And I was 16 at the time. The time change when you go to Germany, it was kind of brutal. I mean, you experienced that a little bit when we went to the UK.
It's a bit rough.
We were traveling during this particular trip when I was 16. We were traveling. We were probably on average a different city or town every 2 to 3 days. And we traveled by bus and to Germany, Austria, and Hungary. So we were in different countries. And it was a brutal trip. And we performed and sang, literally sang for our supper. Sometimes we stayed with host families, some of which did not speak English. I remember we stayed in this town up in the mountains by the Black Forest. My brother and I stayed with this family who did not speak any English. This is a tiny town.
And you guys know a little German and you speak very little German.
So I'm a sophomore in high school. I just finished being a sophomore.
Oh, wait, so at this point you guys did zero German.
Yeah, no, I was taking Spanish. So I'm like, this is super helpful. We did sign language and we kind of got by. So, but anyway, I was just super exhausted. And one morning we were in Ulm, Germany, and we were staying with this family. And the Germans, they love their breakfast. I walked down the stairs and their entire table was just filled with lunch meat and fruit and lots of coffee. So this was probably day 4 of the trip out of 14. Now it was 17, I guess. 2.5 weeks we were there. I was struggling, so I was like, I'll just try it. And I couldn't drink it straight because European coffee is really dark, really bitter. So I put cream and sugar in it.
What I would now consider yummy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's different. It's nothing like you get in the States. But that was my first experience with coffee. And then I started drinking it on the trip, and that helped with the jet lag. And I got back, and I was like, I like coffee now. So I would bring a thermos to high school. I would drive because I was a junior in high school at that point. I drove myself to school. I guess my mom got me a Keurig because those were pretty popular at that point. Yeah, the rest is history. I would make myself a little thermos and I would drink it before I went to class.
And now I occasionally have Starbucks dates with Jim. Or whoever's name they accidentally write down instead of Joe.
Yeah, and then college, that was a huge, huge surge of coffee.
I don't remember how old or how new the Starbucks was when I started. Because there was just the one Starbucks on campus.
They were doing lots of construction before we got to university.
Because the people that were 2 or 3 years ahead of us were UC stands for under construction, because half of campus was literally under construction.
But they just stopped that pretty much, or they stopped all the major construction. So I feel like they just built it in time for when I got there.
Yeah. So there was a Starbucks. Occasionally the line would be so long that you'd be like, I'm not going to make it to class if I stand in line. So, okay, I'll just wait until after class or some other time. But then they added another Starbucks about halfway across campus. They had 2 locations. And then they remodeled the top floor of one of the engineering buildings. and they added a Starbucks cafe there, but it was like, here's a coffee pot with some Starbucks coffee that's almost always empty. So it was totally pointless to me. That was also when they put whiteboard paint on the walls, and then people ruined it with Sharpies. And I'm like, this is why we can't have nice things.
But that main Starbucks cafe was really nice because it was 2 floors.
Yeah. Downstairs was where you get your drinks, and they had a few seats, and then upstairs they had quite a few seats, and we'd go up there and study from time to time. And then rumor had it there was a class where one of the professors said if you showed up late, you owed him coffee, but if he showed up late, he'd buy the whole class coffee, and he was actually late one day. So the line for Starbucks was super long as he was getting all of these kids' coffee. But at least he stuck to his guns. Those were our coffee origin stories. But I also do remember, way back in the day, at some point I went to College Hill Coffee with my mom. Like, she would meet friends there, and I'd just be tagging along because as an only child, you hang out with your parents a lot. It's not bad. It's just, you hang out with a lot of grown-ups. So, but they reopened in 2006 with new management. So I can't remember whether it was I went before 2006 or after 2006. But so now, well, pre-COVID, it's half of it's a seating area for food. The other half is a mini seating area, and then like a gift shop kind of type deal where they've got a shop where they have seasonal offerings. So like depending upon what the season is, like they'll have stuff for Christmas or stuff for spring. They'll have puzzles, baby toys, kitchen and tea towels, handcrafted items, and like really random things that are all pretty cool.
I remember going to College Hill Coffee as a sophomore or junior before, I think it was Bold and Gold.
I mean, at least at the time, it was the closest coffee shop that wasn't a Starbucks to our parents' house.
We didn't get coffee, we got hot chocolate.
I mean, that's what all the cool kids would do.
Yeah, but we stopped there, we went to dinner, and then we were on our way to, it was one of the Macaulay dances. So I remember going there in high school specifically for their hot chocolate. So this is one of those places where I get just straight coffee. I like their Highlander grog, or I just like Highlander grog in general.
Yeah, and one year for Christmas, we got a bag of Nutcracker Sweet from College Hill Coffee. We're like, yeah, that's right down the street from our house. So about every year. I don't think you got any last year, but like almost every year we end up getting a bag of Nutcracker Sweet, which just smells delicious.
They have a small kitchen, and they do breakfast, brunch / lunch items. Kind of small plates sort of stuff. In the before times, we used to go on like a Saturday afternoon or mostly on a Sunday. And we would sit and read, and you would knit.
I do like to knit.
And you would get the hummus plate and a tea with the loose leaf.
Yeah, they do have a really good tea selection as well. It's not tea bags, it's actual loose leaf tea.
Yeah.
Which is hard to come by sometimes.
And I usually, if they don't have the right coffee that I like, I usually just get a latte.
And then I would go to the bathroom and go a few doors down to the textile shop to get some yarn. One time I came back with enough yarn to make a sweater. I have yet to make that sweater. It'll happen eventually.
What's nice is that you can sit at a table for food, you know, in the before times, or they had comfy chairs / couches. So if you're just getting coffee and you just want to hang out and read or talk, or sometimes they even have music, you can just sit and listen.
They would always have advertisements for, this is what band is going to be here Friday night, and it would be like a little 2 or 3 piece band, or it would just be a singer with a guitar. They'd always mix it up. It'd be somebody, they'd have somebody there on Friday and somebody else there on Saturday. It'd be like a whole big thing. But we never went to any of those. We could have.
Yeah, we went there today, as you said, and it was kind of sad.
I mean, it's still nice. So they got rid of like all of their seating, and they just replaced it with, they spread out the shop more, and they offer a few more like takeaway food things. As far as like they had bread, which I don't think I had seen them have bread before, but their kitchen has really limited what items they'll do. They have an outside patio, which they're still using, but you can't sit inside anymore. But they're still making some mean lattes, so.
Yeah, their coffee is good. I hope they survive.
I do too, because they're really nice. It'd be nice to go there again. Then we got a coffee shop that's closer to our parents' house, White Oak Coffee House. They opened in June of 2018, and it was like my favorite place to hang out with Lily when I was on maternity leave, because I just throw her in the pumpkin seat and we'd go hang out at White Oak Coffee as long as she would allow me to. Occasionally, I would get to finish my latte within a reasonable time frame. Sometimes I'd have to chug it. It just kind of depended. I will go out of my way to stop there on my way to work if I leave the house at a reasonable time.
Lily loves their banana chocolate chip muffins, and you're a big fan of their pastries, which they get from a local chef.
Yeah, I get their chocolate croissants, which I know it's a French style baker, but I don't remember what his name is. And he's got stuff at a few different local coffee shops, but the chocolate croissants are on point.
I usually just get a latte. I don't usually get food.
So pre-pandemic, they would host some art events in their upstairs space. Like you could paint a sign for your house. I think they did flower arranging one time. It was stuff that I always wanted to go to, but they would always sell out before I could get into them. And they feature a different local artist each month. So March was 2 different grades art projects from the school down the street. So they had a project from the 4th grade class and a project from the 7th grade class that they've just thrown all over their space. It's really cool. And then sometimes they'll do stuff, like they'll do little things from local artists that are for sale, or the local artist that they're featuring is actually selling their art as well. So they'll have prices next to all the art that's on the walls. So it's a good way to support local artists too.
I mean, even in the before times, we would try to utilize their outdoor seating as much as possible, but they only have a small patio, unfortunately, so they are very limited as far as outdoor seating. But they do have a nice indoor seating area.
Yeah, pre-COVID, you could cram quite a few people in that space, and it still felt kind of big because it's an old repurposed house. I swear it used to be my orthodontist office, but then my orthodontist built a building next door. So yeah, but during COVID, they closed down for a while, and they would do like super local coffee bean and pastry deliveries. So like our parents could have potentially utilized that service, but we were too far away too. But then they did reopen, and I was like, yeah. They cut their tables in half as far as how many places you could sit inside, but they still had their outside seating. So we would try to sit outside as much as we could. They've been expanding their food options, which has been great because it makes it a little bit easier to go there if we haven't necessarily had like a legitimate breakfast yet. Because now they have breakfast burritos that are pretty yummy, in addition to all their pastries, and they have like frittatas.
And then there's Sailor Park Coffee.
Yep, this is the newest coffee shop to town that we go to because they opened in December of 2019. But they've made it through, so that's good. So I saw that they had opened up because it was like a friend had posted like, hey, there's this new coffee shop. Has anybody been yet? And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty close to our house. So I met up with a friend with little baby Lily and her little toddler and was like, yo, do you want to watch Lily 2 days a week as we're sipping this awesome coffee? And she was like, sure. And now she can't watch Lily 2 days a week because they're about to have a baby. But as the time of this posting, they have had a baby. So it's near the river, and it had a really nice seating area before COVID shut everything down. They had some comfy chairs. They had some small tables. Overall, it's a pretty small space, but they made it seem big because the ceilings are pretty high, and they didn't like overcrowd it with seating. It was just seating was at a premium. But in addition to coffee, they do smoothies, they do shakes, they have soft serve over the warmer months, which Lily is going to super love this summer. And they've got like a nice little garden park nearby because they're Sailor Park inside Sailor Park. Cincinnati can be confusing at times. So eventually I will take Lily and Eli. We'll get some coffee and we'll go for a walk. They always stayed open during COVID, but unfortunately they've had to close out their seating area. I'm really hoping they get to bring it back.
I think their outdoor seating is...
Yeah, they do have outdoor seating. And they did do the little Bernie meme when that was a thing.
I did see that, yeah. That was funny. So our next coffee hangout place is Coffee Emporium. And we haven't been to Coffee Emporium in a quite a little bit.
Well, because we have to hang out downtown in order to go to Coffee Emporium usually.
Yeah, the location that we go to is downtown and over the Rhine. And we used to go quite a bit after church when we went to Old St. Mary's.
Yeah, because we just walked there after church and then we go walk back to the car.
Or we went to the Eagle or something like that.
Yeah.
Because all that is right there. So it's downtown and over the Rhine. The kitchen, we didn't really eat there, but it's similar to that of College Hill Coffee, where you can order some food, but the main focus is on the coffee.
Yeah, they have some really good bean roasts. And they also had a really nice sitting area. They had some comfy couches, but mostly it was tables and chairs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really hang out there a lot. We mostly get coffee and go. We would get coffee and go to the library, or we get coffee after church and then go somewhere else. It was more of we're going to pick stuff up and go, but there'd be a lot of people there hanging out.
Yeah, I feel like they had a really nice brunch, but we never got it.
Yeah, and I know there was a transition period where they actually expanded out their dining space and they remodeled a bit. So they had a small seating area, and then all of a sudden they doubled their seating area, which was nice.
And then the next one is Aromas Cafe.
Yeah, so that one's closest to our house. But they've got a pretty good seasonal menu. We go there when we need to get out of the house. We can't go terribly far because the kids are going to be a hot mess. And they've got some pretty yummy lattes, too. They also have a pretty decent kitchen that we also haven't utilized. Because they are more of I think you can get soups and salads and stuff there.
And then finally there is Fairfield Coffee.
Which is way out of the way for us. But it's right down the street from the car shop. So anytime I go to the car shop, I go to Fairfield Coffee. Because I can just walk there without needing my car. And then if my car is going to take forever, I go to the Lane Public Library. And I hang out there for a while. They've got little lunch. They also have some yummy seasonal drinks. I mean, all of these places have yummy seasonal drinks. I don't know why I put that down as a fact for all of them. Because, it's true for all of them. And we love supporting small businesses as much as we can.
Well, we have some more listener feedback this week.
Well, we've actually put episodes out into the universe now. So, who's this feedback from?
This week, our user feedback is from Karen, who lives in Coleraine. Karen says, "Will you stop sharing fake feedback on your show? It isn't even funny, and it gives everyone named Karen a bad reputation."
Karen, we thank you for your feedback. And I will have you know that we are friends with a Karen that people like you give a bad rap to. Wow. Karen that I know is very loving and kind and would not complain about people the way that you do. But we would love to share some other feedback on our show from people not named Karen or people named Karen but are nice. So if you are sick of hearing from mean Karen, you can send us your feedback via email at craftparentingpodcast@gmail.com.
Well, that does it for this week's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to this show. We are officially listed on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and many, many more platforms. If we aren't listed in your podcatcher of choice, then you can go to our Buzzsprout website, grab the RSS feed, and usually there's an option to add to it.
If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. Make sure to share the show with your friends, family, your neighbor down the street. Again, that guy at the grocery store. He probably needs something to listen to.
Yeah, all of this really helps our show grow, so we appreciate all of your support.
And you can follow us on our new Facebook page at Craft Parenting Podcast. Get updates on when episodes have dropped, see pictures of our adorable kids, and leave reviews.
And with that, I'm Joe.
And I'm Caroline.
See you next time on Craft Parenting.
Oh, we've actually posted stuff, so maybe this is actually legit? I don't know, you tell me. As Clara dreams in the background. Our producer is definitely sleeping.
Producer, knock it off.
Get the squirrel. Get the squirrel. Get him. Wait, now Molly listens to this. Get the rabbit. Get the rabbit. I love you, Molly. I'm going to snuggle up with the mic now, and we're going to go sleep.
We have to record the podcast. You can't do that.
But I'm so sleepy. I want to go sleep.
Now it's just getting weird.
I'm so tired. I need a nap.